Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Kyle Schrum, Joe Courtney, Ashley Hicks. Everyone, how's it going?
What's up?
They waved because,
Because we're on video now.
I'm not saying hi anymore. I'm just waving. You got
most people are listening, though. I know we're on video.
It's true. Hi.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go with Ashley. Ashley, how you doing? How's life?
I'm out of quarantine, so it's real nice.
You broke the rules earlier anyway, so
That's true. Are you actually quarantined?
We quarantined. We did. We stuck to Scott's quarantine, and then we lasted 2 more days of Connor and I. So on day 12, we officially got out. But on day 14, though, for real, I got a mani-pedi. We went on a date night. We went to church on Sunday. It was real nice. So. And yeah, we're doing good. But as of tomorrow, I go back for more medical stuff just because things are still not figured out. Joe, you kind of talked about it with you and Liz, but I'm the heaviest I've ever been, and it's kind of hard to again, I talked about it earlier, mentally, I'm doing the right things with my diet as well as my workouts. So obviously it's more hormonal. And so I just definitely need some help. And I'm excited to see what my functional medicine doctor has to say tomorrow. But doing another elimination diet, just really dialing it in of no alcohol. And I mean, when I say no alcohol, I barely drink any anyways. And then no legumes or any sort of gluten-free grains. So anything that's gluten-free flour or gluten-free noodles. Stay away from that. So just up in the veggies and, sticking to less starches. I'll do sweet potatoes or whatnot, but got to stay away from the rice and stay away from the white potatoes. It's not bad. It's just what I'm going to do. So anyways.
Yeah, elimination diets are probably just how people should eat. That's my theory of it all. If you look at the elimination diets, it's just cut out all this stuff and then you're supposed to bring it back one at a time. But I say if you go on an elimination diet and you're loving life, just don't bring any of it back.
Yeah, the last time, and I feel like you learned so much about your body, but then also what you should be eating. And the last time, so I'm staying away from red meat this time around again. And we ate so much fish last time, and we still eat fish about 3 times a week. But I'm interested to see how I up it, just because I'll probably get tired of chicken and turkey, because that's typically what we eat if we stay on no red meat. So
awesome.
it's pretty slim.
It's pretty what?
Slim.
Yeah, it is pretty slim.
Slim pickings.
Meat department.
You need
Did you
a
call me?
shake. You need a shake,
No.
a lunch with meat and vegetables, and then a dinner. There's nothing else a human needs.
You know what? Funny enough, that's exactly what my meals look like. Then I don't really snack in between very often either. So yeah, I have a tea that is more herbal and it doesn't have any caffeine in the afternoon. I used to have an afternoon coffee, and I've eliminated that. And that's probably my hardest thing, is eliminating caffeine, because I really love coffee in the morning.
It's really hard for me to justify, or here's the deal. I can do a lot of things. I can stick to things, no problem, if there's a reason for it. Like
Right.
if I have a legitimate reason, if they're like, you can't eat this thing and it was my favorite thing, whatever, I would never eat it again. If there's like a medical reason, that would be easy for me. I've tried cutting out coffee a few times and I just can't find the real reason for doing it. It's more like, yeah, let's try it. Like, well, I have to have it. That's the only thing that I have to have. And I can't find a reason to just stop doing it.
I think the reason that they tell you to is because most people drink like Folgers or Maxwell House,
Right.
or you know what I mean? So the quality of coffee that they're drinking actually has a lot of carcinogens in it. And so it's like, oh, I think that's the point. Instead of saying like, go buy a Swiss water filtered coffee that's $14 for a pound, like people would freak out, you know? And I know you and Emily get good coffee, so yeah, I mean that's what I would focus on more importantly, is like make sure like the sources of the things that you do have, make sure that they're good quality stuff. Anyway, sorry. Tangent on my update. Maybe Kyle should go next.
I could talk
And-
coffee all day. And
I mean,
Kyle hates
yeah.
coffee, so he's sitting here bored.
I feel attacked
I
right
can talk
now.
too.
I don't hate coffee. I drink coffee every day. Look, you know, I mean, I drink coffee every day. I
Is
just
that
drink
really
decaf
elephant
coffee.
That's you know,
I like the taste of
Okay.
it. I like the taste of coffee. I don't need the caffeine. So it's natural energy, I guess.
always
I don't
hyped.
know. I'm always hyped. I'm ready to go, man.
Why do you
all the
think
time.
Carter is the way he is?
I know, right? Maybe, yeah. Need to rethink this whole thing that's going on. Anyway, my updates. I guess I'm going next. My updates. BCT update. I've switched to a training max on the squats instead of the true max
Because this wave is ridiculous.
because I think Jerred's trying to kill us.
I
in
think
the first
everyone's
cycle.
slightly dying. There's gonna be some massive
Yeah.
changes next cycle.
Yeah, so still loving the heavy squatting, but I needed it to be a little less heavy just to make sure I'm sticking with the technique and all of that stuff. So things like the weight and the reps going up as the sets go, like not going down like as the weight goes up. It's kind of fun. It's fun. But yeah, switch to training max. I think everybody on the track has done that. But
Yeah.
anyway, another big update. Big for me. Maybe other people don't care. Hannah is buying gym stuff now. So she bought, it's not a big thing. She bought a timer to hang up in the gym. So we've got
that's
like
awesome.
the interval timer hanging up in the gym now. I hung it up this morning. All that good stuff. Got a good deal on it for Cyber Monday. It's not the Rogue brand because those suckers were still like $230.
Rogue prices.
Yeah, so it's like no, but it does everything a Rogue does. Just
Counts?
not with the
Probably just slightly worse.
yeah.
Up and down.
It works. It works. So got a good deal on it. Anyway, the big point is Hannah's moving ever closer to the official Garage Gym athlete status. And maybe she's achieved it. Maybe.
She's got 2 PR shirts, so
She does. And now she's buying gym stuff. So
was this
Yeah.
like a 2-year Jedi mind trick you pulled?
You will like Garage Gym Athlete.
yeah.
There you
It's,
go.
So yeah, we're there now. My wife is buying gym stuff. So I think big accomplishment. We're good to go. Now if I can just get her on the podcast.
It'll happen.
Well, I've already been booted off that podcast, so that's cool.
See.
I think it's just gonna end up being Ashley and Hannah.
Yeah, that's fine.
It'll probably be the best athlete interview ever.
I know.
Happy day.
Joseph,
Jerred.
No.
You don't have a long version.
It's already long.
Geroticus.
Gerard.
Still counting macros. It's actually getting a lot easier than it seems. So it's just like a habit now. It's not too bad. But one funny thing that I noticed just looking at some of my Garmin stats, and this might drive some people crazy, but so looking at my resting heart rate for the couple of weeks before I was counting my macros. So you know how like normally when you have your resting heart rate, it usually hovers between about three beat range. Well, my 3-beat range in these 2 weeks that I've been counting macros has actually decreased by about 2 beats, which was unexpected. I don't know why, but I thought that was kind of cool. And yeah, so that was fun. And finally got my chili pad hooked up. We received it in the mail like a month ago, only to find out that one of the power cords wasn't included when I shipped it, or when my dad shipped it, or whoever. It's probably my fault because I learned through this move that I suck at moving and I suck at packing.
Stream ownership, bro.
Yeah, it was all me. But so we had we only had one power cord because one of them we never opened. So I gave it to Liz so that she could use it and experience the magic. So now I finally got a power cord that I ordered on Amazon, and I still also lost the remote. Don't know how that happened because it was here. We swear by it. So we don't have the remote, so I have to turn it on manually, but that's fine. Whatever. I just don't adjust it during the night. But either way.
I lost the remote the first week I got it. So
What is?
I've been pressing the button like a caveman for a year.
You're just not adjusting, just always on low.
The caveman chili pad.
I have to get out of my bed. I have to get out of my bed to turn it on. It's so ridiculous.
It's easier to just curl up in a tighter ball to stay warmer than to get out of bed and do that.
Do you adjust it? I mean, the reason the remote is actually pointless for me, and I'm totally being facetious, is that I turn it on as cold as it can go, and then I get in my bed. That's it. There's never an adjustment needed.
I start with a couple of degrees above, but if it's like 2 a.m. and I'm already getting chilly, I might up it by like 3 degrees, and that's it. And it makes a little bit of a difference.
Who knew Joe would be more high maintenance?
Super high maintenance, man.
Than me?
Yeah.
Am I high maintenance, Kyle?
No.
You missed the joke. Never mind. It was a stab at Joe.
Sarcasm is dead.
It's fine. So bedtime is the opposite of lit right now. And a new record, I told you guys and I told my siblings, people were kind of impressed. So Thursday, Thanksgiving, I cooked a 20-pound turkey. By Monday, we had finished all of our leftovers, all of our sides, everything, because we pretty much ate nothing but that. And it was like the most giant Mondo plates. And it was also kind of a good thing because that also means we didn't have to figure out how to calculate our macros off of Thanksgiving leftovers. So that was fun. But it was delicious.
Most impressive.
Might have to cook another one soon. And I'll just end updates there because I feel like I've taken up a lot of time.
Yeah, so you have. That was a long.
Right.
That was a lot of time. No,
fantastic. I'll be less entertaining next time.
I don't have a lot of updates. Coming off of Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all that stuff. So this is our second year. It might be a new tradition where we spend our Thanksgiving at an Airbnb somewhere. It kicked off last year with our team retreat. That was the Spartan race. And then we ended up doing Thanksgiving with my family in some random Airbnb in South Carolina. And then we went to Broken Bow, Oklahoma this year. So it's a fun thing. It was great to get out of town, but got back to some news. And the news is I've been updating people on the building in the backyard. They denied the building being connected to our septic. It's not like you can't build it. It's just we have to get an additional tank to the septic. So I'm at the decision point of, do we do it? Because it's a complete waste of money.
Just get an outhouse.
I was going to say composting toilet, but
everyone acts like it's really easy to just go outside. But have you ever urinated in your backyard multiple times a day for years on end? I haven't, but I have a feeling, because normally when you pee outside, it's like you're in a situation where that happened and it's like a one-off thing. But if you pee in the same spot multiple times per day for years on end, I just have a feeling it's not like something's going to be bad like that. I think that's why the Black Plague happened, like pee and poop in the streets. Come on. So just saying.
Going back to caveman status.
Yeah.
I think
So anyway,
Emily would let me in the house, so I'm okay.
Yeah, no, I could easily come inside. So that is where we at. Those are the options: is pay to get the septic It's not a new septic. It's like an add-on. I don't know much about septic tanks. Is my first one anyway, or eliminate the bathroom from the space, or don't do it. I guess those are 3 options. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was we got a lot of people who committed. So we introduced a lifetime Garage Gym Athlete membership and annual membership, and a lot of people combined between those two took us up on it, and that's awesome. I kind of threw down the gauntlet in the podcast saying, hey, if you want to commit, and a lot of you committed, so that's awesome. The lifetimers, a bad news, we're actually shutting Garage Gym Athlete down next year, so lifetime's only about 6 months.
Joke's on you.
Yeah, of course that is a joke. Plan to keep Garage Gym Athlete up and running for as long as I am able, and
even past that.
We'll
and
pass it
once,
down.
once
on
I'm
the
dead,
situation.
that we have
Yep.
the if Jerred dies plan halfway worked out anyway. So yeah, you just keep on training, so you're good. So in all seriousness, it was huge because people were committing to a year, they're committing to lifetime memberships, and it says a lot about this community. And that was the thing that I wanted to highlight, because I didn't expect such an overwhelming response. But that just means people really, really believe in the programming, in what we're doing, in the training, and they're really committed to getting better, improving themselves, and being consistent. So it's really just a compliment to the community itself. So you guys are awesome, and thanks for sticking around and trusting us and the team and all that we're doing. So I guess we can talk science, kind of. So the study this week is not really a study. It's actually a scientific paper. This is the first paper that we've done. Scientific papers kind of highlight an issue, and they link to a bunch of different studies and point things out. And the scientific paper that we are going to kind of cover is called Environmental Influences on Elite Sport Athletes' Well-Being, from gold, silver, and bronze to blue, green, and gold. So let me get fancy with the video. There it is. If you want to check it out.
There we go.
There it is. So like I said, this is a scientific paper. Inside of this scientific paper, there were 58 linked studies. And the main reason I wanted to cover this one, I care very little about the Olympics and the health of our Olympians and their performance, in different environmental factors. But what's really cool about this study, we obviously will have this study linked in the show notes, but go check it out, because like I said, there are 58 different studies that they link to. And I just have a bunch of quotes that I want to read from the study as we dive into it. But they're really looking at air pollution, water quality, and being outside, and how these things can help you. But they link to the studies that kind of prove it. And let's see, it was 2 weeks ago ish, something like that, we got this question on water quality and how important is water quality. And my response was, it all matters. Like your water quality matters, your air quality matters, your food quality matters. It all matters. None of these things should be overlooked. Maybe you shouldn't be obsessive about them, but it's all very important. So I wanted to highlight some of these things from the study, specifically covering air pollution, environmental stuff, in general. So I'll throw it to you guys. Like I said, there's not a big takeaway other than this stuff is important, and we can get into some other specifics. But what did you guys pull from this paper, should I say, that you thought was cool or found important?
The first thing I thought when reading through it was RIP Olympic Games. So it talks about how the 2020 Olympic Games were going to be held in Tokyo. And so
Yeah, who won
kind
that
of
one?
dates the paper too. It's kind of like, well, then 2020 happened and we didn't actually have Olympics. I was actually sad about that. I really enjoy the Summer Olympic Games. I think they're really, really cool, and I enjoy watching them. So that's just one other thing that 2020 kind of took away from me, but we won't go there. Anyway, something that they're obviously trying to highlight with this paper is how important it is to reduce pollution. And they're kind of highlighting how different places that have hosted the Olympic Games were pretty high on the pollution scale, especially in Beijing, and then in Rio weren't super. Even London wasn't a super great place as far as pollution goes. But that Tokyo actually is a great place. Like, it's not a highly polluted city, even with the population density that it has. So many people living there, but they still keep pollution down. And so, but they're talking about that and how the outdoors, the environment that people are competing in affects them. But one quote that I wanted to pull out was specifically, there is potential for natural environments to reduce stress, aid recovery from stressful events, improve cognitive function, and provide beneficial changes in cardiovascular indicators of stress. So basically, go outside and reduce stress. Outside is good for you. And so that's kind of the biggest thing that I took away. I don't know, really, I think a lot of our people do train outdoors. At least part of their training is outdoors. And so I think we're all kind of experiencing the benefits of training outdoors and just being outdoors in general. But it's good to have something here that kind of highlights not just a basic overview of the benefits of being outdoors, but also linking a bunch of studies that actually prove it. So that's something that I took away from it.
For me, I just have kind of like little things that, we could potentially utilize if we're performing like in a Spartan or doing something else, because I have a feeling not a lot of us are Olympian athletes. But one of the things I will say, though, is I was pretty shocked about Japan being as environmentally friendly as they were. So I wonder, like, what restriction they have in place. Like, do you have to take, public transportation that is, trains or whatnot to eliminate all of the air pollution that's going on? So kudos to Japan for doing whatever it is that they're doing. So I'll talk a little bit about outdoors versus indoors training, because before I was a garage gym athlete, I was a garage gym athlete, but I was using base gyms. And so I was doing a lot of indoor work. But like if we did running or conditioning or whatnot, we always made sure to get out to the track if we could. And I will say I was a little more apprehensive is not the word. I was a little more like, didn't really want to do the workout if I had to be indoors and like running on a treadmill or whatnot, especially in England. It's raining, it's cold. So I will say that my attitude does change a lot when I'm outdoors running versus when I'm indoors. Granted, I don't really like treadmills anyways. But something I thought we could take away from this, they talked about the water quality, and that's something Jerred brought up. If I was going someplace that I was kind of questionable about water quality, they've got now water bottles that you can take that you can filter some stuff out of it. I don't know how great those are, but I was thinking about like a travel size, some sort of Berkey or Pro Pure filter water. Those are just two brands you can get that you can, do at your house. I know Jerred and Emily have a Berkey. You can look those
Berkey
up.
has a water bottle. Is that what you're talking about?
I think so.
Yeah, they have a sport travel water bottle. It's got like a filter on the inside. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so it just takes out some of the bad stuff that you would get like in normal tap water. So maybe travel around with that. And then another thing I thought about too is like in the area where you are at, maybe get there a little bit earlier. Like I was thinking about this as I was reading, like, going to different places, traveling to different places. Obviously for Olympian athletes, they're potentially going across the ocean or wherever that they're at. So you want to get acclimated to where you're at. But for us as athletes, like if we're going to performance places, maybe don't do what I did before the Spartan and just show up the night before after a day of travel, just kind of maybe get there, let your body acclimate to whatever, because they were talking about that as well. They were talking about how different elevations affected people as well as Olympian athletes. But yeah, get outside. I mean, it just shows like, outdoors definitely can improve your mental health, the way you train. So yeah, I agree with Kyle on that one too.
Working at San Diego, it was always fantastic to have the gym outside. And now even here, like there's the outdoor gym here and the indoor gym. And right now it's perfect weather to be working out outdoors. But once that heat picks up, it's going to be really sad that I'm going to have to work out indoors. It's going to be miserable. But speaking of here and air quality, this is actually something that I found out after we moved here. But the air quality here is actually bad. And you actually have to look at if you're going to run outside to check the air quality for the day. If it's like high risk air or bad air quality, you basically shouldn't work out outside. And even like normally, it's still labeled as unsafe. And like I can kind of tell you in your weather app actually, but then I also went to this website while I was reading the study, and it tells you wherever you're living, you can look at to see what the air quality is at and what it is on their rating scale, which is kind of cool. And here it is unsafe. So, but right now, since it's the winter months, it's cooler. It's not so bad. So I think once it picks up the heat, that makes the air quality worse. I won't be outside running anyway. But to go back to your point of Japan and why theirs is so clean and good. I mean, that they're some of the technology they have is fantastic. But back in February, I went to Singapore. And Singapore is a huge, very busy, high traffic city. Lots of people that travel there. And one thing I noticed when there is that, I mean, their technology is very advanced. They it's very clean, but also I just noticed the air quality there was fantastic. It's like being in all the different cities that I've been in, it had really good air quality, and that's because one thing that they do there is you look at these buildings and like the architecture there is phenomenal. It's ridiculous some of the stuff they do, but they design buildings to grow green on the entire side of buildings. Like we're talking 10, 12, 15 stories of like green walls, and like the roofs are green, and then like they make it very artsy, and then there's parks everywhere and trees, and you really notice the difference. And on the website that I checked, the air quality, they're in the green. They're in really good air quality, for even especially for having such a big city. So stuff like that I think is really cool, and just shows that having trees around really helps, which kind of makes me think about getting a plant, although I hate plants and I would probably kill it anyway. And I don't think aloe is going to do much for your air quality. That's about the only thing I can keep alive. That's about it for the plants. But I just think it's kind of interesting for in that aspect, and maybe even checking to see what your air quality might be. And if depending on where you're living, even if you have an air purifier in your house, because sometimes you can't help where you live, city wise or job wise, but you're in your house at least sleeping 8 or so hours a day. You're probably in your house a total of 10 to 12. So at least half of the day or so, you're breathing the air in your house. So maybe at least adjusting the air quality in your own house with air purifiers and things like that could help, whether it's fitness wise, overall health wise, and the like.
Yeah, those are some great tips. And just the bigger, tying this back to athletes, so the bigger picture is if you do look, you dive into this, in their 58 linked studies and you pull up some of their studies, it's actual performance increases with some of these things that they're looking at when they move athletes to greener spaces or have them work out outdoors as opposed to indoor. So it's not just like a theoretical thing too. And I know one thing that I noticed, and the only thing I can think, this is very anecdotal, but Dallas, kind of like Bahrain, it's like in the summer when it's really hot, the air quality is worse. There's just, that's pretty much everywhere. Like when heat goes up, the air quality gets a little bit worse. That's like just pretty standard. And so we do look out for those things. Like during the summer, the performance goes down just because of the heat, but also, the air quality is just not as great. Now, I don't live in Dallas, like the actual city where it would be bad, but the surrounding area. And when I moved to North Carolina, we basically lived in the middle of the forest, with like a couple other houses. And one thing that I thought was really cool, it had been about 5 months after we got there, we were testing, because at that time we were doing the 1.5 mile run, and we were doing the 1.5 mile run, and nothing had changed in my training. Like it was just, I was doing hard to kill, and I was just testing because it was a fit week. And I ran like a 9:08 mile and a half. And I remember when I finished, I was like, I can't be done. Like, I'm not that tired. And this should have been harder. Like, did I misjudge the distance? But it was on GPS. And so I was like, no, I was right. But I could just breathe so much better. And I've always thought about that because I had been in the mountains for several months. And then, in there, the summer was pretty mild, getting into the summer months. And so that's just one thing I always think about with air quality, that it was so much better where we were at in North Carolina. And I think it actually helped my performance quite a bit. Now it's not like I run an 11-minute in Texas and, it's not that drastically different, but it's just something that was noticeable. Now, some other things I wanted to point out from the study. some cool things that I didn't know existed. They pointed out there's a consistent evidence of positive relationship between natural environment exposure and health. And then there's these theories, the attention restoration theory by Kaplan and Kaplan in 1989, stress reduction theory, Ulrich et al. 1991. So some cool stuff, some cool like theories to check out beyond just like another scientific study. They pulled a systematic review that also found that physical activity in natural environments was associated with decreased feelings of tension, confusion, anger, and depression, while exhibiting greater feelings of revitalization. Another one, this was on track athletes. In comparison, indoor activity was associated with increased frustration, anxiety, anger, and sadness. Investigated performance of 128 collegiate track and field athletes across 4 locations rated for greenness. They reported that greenness was a predictor of performance, which more of the athletes' best performances occurring at the site with the highest greenness rating. So this, I didn't dive further into that specific study, but in the paper, this is just what they mentioned. That's a direct quote, but areas that are more green, so more trees, more grass, things like that. There is statistical significance that track and field athletes perform better. I thought that was really interesting. And then they kind of summed it all up. They said in some, there's consistent evidence that exercising in clean natural environments is associated with positive changes in self-reported psychological state. Given the results of such studies, considering the relationship between athletes' performance and health in Olympic cities has particular relevance. And I think it just has particular relevance in everybody's life. So get outside as much as you can. I know I have a true form runner. When I run on it, I pull it into my driveway, underneath the trees, or at least I'm still outside because I don't like just being inside. And I try to do as much stuff outside as I can. And I think it's really, really huge factor in your overall health and well-being. Going to the gym over and over again. While most everyone listening to this is a garage gym athlete, you don't need to like lock yourself in. Like I'm seeing people, fully insulate their spaces and add air conditions and all this crap. And I'm like, I don't know if that's what you really want. And it goes back to this comfort idea, right? Like, do you really need to be that comfortable when you're exercising? Like my garage gets to 125 degrees in the summer, a bit excessive, but is it worth sealing the whole thing off and adding an air conditioning because it gets too hot and I don't want to be outside? I think there'd be more performance benefit in the long term of just dealing with it and getting outside.
So the pulling your treadmill outside just reminded me of a funny video. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where a guy put a treadmill on wheels and hooked it up to a motor. So he was running on a treadmill, but as he ran on the treadmill, it powered the wheels, and the treadmill was going on like a running track.
Just for fun.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure some people have seen it. Also, this is why we tell you to pick up your heavy objects and go take them for walks every once in a while.
Spoiler alert for the workout.
We're not there yet.
In a minute.
Foreshadowing.
Okay, so my overall takeaway, 2 things. It all matters. It all matters. Everything matters. Don't think that it doesn't. Just because we don't talk about them all the time doesn't mean it doesn't matter. So it all matters, and go outside. That's it. Now onto the topic.
So a lot of people ask about mobility, and it's usually very specific to what's going on with them. That's what, but mobility is great to do for almost everyone, for whatever reason, whether it's a injury, a limitation you have, and although figuring out what's the best mobility specifically for whatever you might have, I think I just wanted to go over some mobility tips, whether we've had or experienced, or things to consider when mobilizing or anything like that related. So Kyle, let's get you first.
Oh man.
You
The
well, I
mobility
didn't want
expert.
anybody to take yours. And yeah, mobility expert. Official.
Mobility expert. Okay. Sarcasm isn't dead, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
So I would say band work as far as mobility. Band work is something that I do quite a bit of, especially with the BCT track and with all the squatting and all the running that we're doing. There's a lot of lower body mobility that I've been doing since being on this track. A lot of ankle work, a lot of knee work. just warming things up, making sure that things are smashed out after the workout, those kinds of things. I've talked on here before about, my lack of ankle mobility, something I'm definitely working on with the squatting, and, the lifting shoes help with that. But, I would rather just have solid, mobile, flexible ankles that will just operate the way they're supposed to. So band work has been really, really helpful for me. There's a lot of different movements that you can look up online. I would say check out the Ready State on YouTube. They also have an app that you can use. You have to buy a subscription with it and use it, but their app is really, really cool, really robust. They have pre-workout movements, post-workout movements, off-day movements, all that kind of stuff. Go check that out. Some specific things that I do, especially warming up for BCT, I'll do banded good mornings. Those help out a whole lot with keeping things nice and warm for squatting and for running. And I'll also do like monster walks and side steps. By the way, Jerred decided to throw those in the training, in the programming. So now I don't just do them for the warm up. I also do them in the session work. So lots of band work going on right now, but those things they're really, really good for keeping your legs warmed up and keeping them mobile, especially on your off days.
Ashley?
So for me, I try to look at, if we're talking mobility after a workout, I try to look at the areas that were really taxed that day. So, whether it was an arm day, like yesterday for Harder to Kill, or if it, lower body day, I kind of focus on those areas and kind of go off what I've done before, whether it be from some soccer stretches or stuff that I've taken from like yoga classes or whatnot. Two good apps that I've used, both GoWOD and ROMWOD. They, again, kind of what Kyle said, they're subscription apps. You can pay for them. I think they're monthly subscriptions. You can actually physically type in the movements that you did that day. You can tell it how much time you have for mobility sessions, whether it's 5 to 20 minutes if you want to do that long. And it generates how much time you should actually be in that position and the different positions you should be doing. Another cool thing I like to use is a lacrosse ball. I really wish I had a Theragun, but alas, lacrosse ball works. You can take it, put it up against the wall for lots of movements up on shoulders and arms and kind of stuff. I mean, if you've ever taken a lacrosse ball and stuck it in your glute and tried to like roll, I mean, that sucker hurts in a good way, breaking up some tissue there. But yeah, and I also like to do some yoga on my rest days. So Thursday is my Sundays are typically the day that like we go on a walk or we do something, still moving. But Thursday, I try to take that day, and during my workout time, I actually do like a yoga session, and it's maybe 20 to 30 minutes long. And I find that it definitely helps my mobility, just the different poses that they're having you do, like a lot of runner's pose or the warrior pose or whatnot, and definitely open up your hips a lot. So I kind of steal what we do on those yoga movements on other days too, like exactly what Kyle was saying. Like if we're squatting, then I try to like warm up my hips, warm up my lower body, and yeah, that's my advice.
So I've got a few things, but I'm interested to hear what Jerred has before I hit mine.
All right, mobility. I think
You're a
if you
very
have,
mobile person, so I don't know how much you've had to do it in the past besides after injuries.
well, let me tell you a story.
All
So
right. Sit down, kids.
when I trained for a long time before I ever started mobility. I mean, I don't know how many years, but I had been lifting heavy and conditioning hard for quite a while before I was like, oh, maybe I should do some mobility. And at that point, let's say it was, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, is when I started doing that stuff. I was not very mobile. I was not. So I didn't have, like, I had a lot of issues, just like tightness in my quads and hips and all this stuff. But then I just made it a part of my routine, and I worked on those specific issues. I worked specifically on like quad tightness and things, and I've never had anything like, I don't deal with a problem anymore. I don't have like continual chronic quad tightness or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I focused on those things for long periods of time, and then they gave up. I won. It's mobile now, and and so I don't struggle with those things, but it is a big part of what I'm doing. I don't complicate it too much. I've used ROMWAD in the past, but I really don't. I don't know. I don't like to complicate mobility too much by doing too many like little things here and there and all that stuff. So my main mobility routine, like I said, I worked on specific issues for a while. Those issues went away, and now I just try to maintain mobility. So it's really like a seated forward fold held for like 2 or 3 minutes, which is great for your lower back, upper back if you kind of tuck your head in, and your hamstrings. And then standing forward fold, really hit the hamstrings. I'll do a saddle stretch where I lay all the way back, really opens up your hips and your quads. And really those 2 or 3 exercises, I'm not saying that's all you ever need, but that's going to take care of lower back, hips, quads, and even your ankles with the saddle stretch there. Those are the main ones I do on a consistent basis. And I hold them for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes at a time. And really, that's about all I'll do these days. I don't have a lot of upper body tightness. I do a lot of PVC pass throughs in my warm up, and I still use the crossover symmetry. I think that's a big reason why I don't have as many issues with my shoulders, which I used to. I used to have big problems with my shoulders, and those have all kind of gone away. So it's all good, but I don't overcomplicate it. I just do a couple things. I hold these stretches for really long periods of time, and that's about it. I feel like that really helps me maintain my mobility.
Yeah, the time one's a good thing to hit on because mobility is very uncomfortable if you especially if you need it. So the longer you hold it, the better, kind of. Really just 20 seconds is not going to get what you need. So 45, 60, even 90 seconds, depending on what you're doing, not like a strenuous stretch, but if you're smashing it and stuff like that.
And
hit on some of the
real quick on the time there, you will actually feel your muscles give up. So when I was saying like give up earlier, like if you're holding a quad stretch, just a simple, let's say you're standing, you grab you grab your foot and you do a quad stretch, the very basic quad stretch. If you hold it for 30 seconds or whatever, yeah, you're going to feel a light stretch, but you're essentially doing nothing, maybe just hurting the performance of your training, if you're not doing it dynamically. But if you hold that to where it's that uncomfortable position, feeling in your quad for 2 minutes, and it feels the same, keep holding it. Just hold it until you actually feel your muscle. It's not giving up. It's relaxing. The muscle's finally relaxing. And that is where you kind of got to that point, right? And that's where I feel like you're actually seeing progress in your mobility. If you're just like stretching and calling it good, you're not probably making any progress. You might be avoiding some injury, but you're not really making progress in your mobility. But you will actually feel it. I know in the saddle stretch, it happens every day that I do it. I'll get in the saddle stretch and it's like almost unbearable because if you guys know what the saddle stretch is, I'm laid all the way back. My legs are tucked up underneath me. It's a pretty intense stretch. But then after about 2 minutes, I feel like I could stay there all day. Like my quads relax, my hips relax, and everything just kind of like lets go. And then it's like, at that point you've maxed out. The only way for me to like push mobility further would be to have a human being like compressing that or stretching me further. So just know that there is a point where you're being, you're doing good for mobility, and you could just be wasting your time if you're not really taking it to that level.
That's felt couch that stretch for me.
Yeah, I was like, I felt that in my hamstrings. Mine is the runner's pose, where you come inside with your hands and you have your, your knee. And then I actually physically come down on my elbows to give it a deeper stretch. And when I do that, I can like feel, it almost feels like a steel rod that is just like moves and then relaxes. Like that's the weirdest feeling ever. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. Sorry, Joe.
No, that's fine. And, so the deeper stretches, it's usually best to do after workouts recovery, not before the workouts.
Right.
We've kind of hit on that in the past. Mobility pre-workouts is usually really good, like smashing something active, something you're active release if you're moving through it and stuff like that. Other big points that because I've the de facto mobility person because I've had really bad mobility in the past, and I've had a lot of coaches put me through a lot of really uncomfortable mobility. So I just kind of learned what what hurts and what works. Sometimes it's not the issue that you think it is. Like a lot of people have issue with the front rack, for example, and they're always first think is, oh, my wrist needs to be more mobile. I can't bend my wrist back far enough. Well, your wrist can only go back so far. It's probably something else. It's probably your lats, which are huge and have the most room to give. And then if it's not your lats, then it's probably your triceps. So if you're having trouble with some specific movement, don't just target one little area and think that one little thing is going to make the biggest difference. It's probably something else. Your muscles connect all together through all different ways. So, I mean, sometimes with your, when I was going through PT for my shoulder, I was thinking a lot of it was my lats, but it was actually my pecs that were a big issue because it was pulling everything forward. So just that's an example of how sometimes working the opposite of what you think can actually help for breaking that down. Yeah, I think that's about it.
I would also say, as far as mobility goes, if you join Garage Gym Athlete Programming, we program your mobility for you. So
yeah,
just
on top of what you said
just
with
a little
bands,
suggestion.
Yeah, besides banded work, voodoo floss is fantastic to have for certain joint things. Like a few people recently have talked about elbow issues, or I've used it on my Achilles because I have tendonitis in my Achilles as well. That can be really good. And with some of the stretching, I see this a lot in the gym when people do the banded lat stretch, and they just kind of put their hand in the band and then just kind of bend over and like, oh, okay, I feel a stretch, but you're like clamping down on the band with like all force. You need to actually like relax into your stretch, because if you're clenching your muscles and stretching, it's kind of, you're not, it's not going to relax into it. You're going to feel like it's stretching because the forces are opposing, but you're not actually stretching. So relaxing into things like that, even though it's really sucks to relax into some of that mobility, but it's going to pay off daily over decades as well.
Yeah, and mobility is super. I hate it. It's annoying. Like it's like cleaning your house. It's like, yeah, I got to do it, but damn, every day, come on. So anyway, it is really important. I know one thing. If you go to the Into 3 Fitness YouTube channel, I have. I don't even know if they're still active, because it used to be Mobility WOD and now they're the Ready State and stuff. But Kelly Starrett did, I think it was a full year, right? It's 365 days of free videos. So we're talking about paid services. And yes, Garage Gym Athlete, we do normally program 1 to 2 mobility exercises at the end of the at the end of the training session that kind of coincided with what we did that day. So, and that kind of stuff is great for me as someone who, like I said, I'm not working on a specific issue as much these days. So just hitting something, 1 or 2 things after the workout. But if you do go to the Into 3 Fitness YouTube channel, we have a playlist that you could check out. It's not our stuff, but it's at least the first 100 or 200 days or something of that. And I do think that that's a great introduction to those things. Because I remember one of the challenges he gave in the first couple of weeks was something that I programmed recently, actually, was hold 5 minutes in the bottom of the squat. So accumulate 5 total minutes in the bottom of the squat position. No barbell or anything, just an air squat. And I remember the first time I ever did that, I was like, that was very, very hard. That was like, I was doing like 20 seconds at a time, 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds if I really wanted to push it. But that's how bad my mobility was when I first started all this stuff. And now, I mean, I could sit in the bottom of the squat and just watch TV like all night if I wanted to. It's not like a, factor anymore. So these things you can make some significant progress by doing these things. And I think that's another great start to check out.
That's
And
something
stability.
that
Sorry, go.
No, you're good.
I
I
was
was
saying,
like,
and stability goes hand in hand with mobility as well. If you do a crap ton of mobility, then you need to stabilize the areas in those range of motions.
I was only going to just piggyback off of Jerred and say that, yeah, I worked on the bottom of a squat for a while. When I first started CrossFit, I found out that I had hip flexor mobility issues, and I couldn't even sit in the bottom of the squat and keep my chest up. Like my chest was almost like to the ground when I would sit in the bottom of a squat, which is not good. So definitely used a lot of stuff like that. But also use what you have. So like if you don't have a lacrosse ball, you don't have bands or whatnot, you could even use a barbell. I've used a barbell to smash my quads. Now, obviously I'm holding it, so I'm using the end of the barbell and I'm rolling it across, and you can give it as much pressure as you need to. So as hard or as light as you need to do it. I've even smashed my triceps, just on the metal part of the bar, just lower it down on the rack. And so it doesn't even have to get, just like Jerred said, you don't have to get crazy with it. Use what you got and just do something.
Workout time.
Let's do it.
This is the Iron Mile, correct?
Yeah, I think Kyle should brief it. It's his favorite.
Yeah. What do we got, Kyle? How do you do this one?
This one's super complicated, which is
Get
what I
a
love
pen and
about
paper,
it.
everybody.
I have to really think about it and plan it out. The Iron Mile consists of walking for a mile with either a barbell or what's it called? Yoke. A barbell or a yoke. I don't ever use the yoke, so I don't even think about it. Either a barbell or a yoke on your back. Walk for a mile. Simple as it gets, but not as easy as it gets. So, be careful. So I would say this is the best Meet Yourself Saturday workout, hands down. I've done almost all of them. Almost. I've done more than Joe, but
Cool.
I just say this is
That's not hard.
This is the best one. I think
More
the
shots
biggest issue that I have when doing the Iron Mile is a blood flow to my hands because I'm holding the barbell up here, and especially now with it coming up this week, it's probably going to be cold outside when I do it, so my hands are going to be cold and the blood flow is going to be restricted. So, but it's just part of the mental aspect of it. So just get out and do it. I would challenge everyone to do it without setting down the bar. And that's not just to throw a challenge out there. It's actually strategic. If you set the bar down, that means you have to pick it up off the ground and get it back on your back before you can start walking again. So it's not just to challenge you, it's to actually help you, because I've done it several times and I've done it both ways of setting the bar down and not setting the bar down, and keeping it up there is by far the best way to go. So last point, maybe after you do the Iron Mile, try the Iron 5K. Maybe one of the members of our community, Darren, actually did a Iron 5K last week, and he accumulated, it was over 70 kilometers, I think, over the month of November, and doing the Iron Mile almost every day. I guess it was every day, but then he capped it off by doing an Iron 5K. So once you get done with the Iron Mile and you realize how much fun it is, just go ahead and make it an Iron 5K. See if you can keep going with it.
It's almost mean that the first Saturday after his challenge, it's an Iron Mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, we switched it just for him.
Because I think some people joined him in that last week,
Mm-hmm.
or at least a 5K or something.
It's our sick joke. It's like, oh, go do it again.
Yeah.
I would say be smart about the weight. We always say that. That's, do something that you can get done, but also that's going to be challenging. So, don't sandbag it, but also don't go at it and be like, oh, I'm going to do RX when you're normally like an established or a recruit athlete. So this is Kyle's favorite workout, and I beat Kyle in his favorite workout, and I'll just, I guess, got to say that in there. But for the wine pairing with this, I said 30 seconds to Mars, or POD, or 5-finger death punch would be like my choices.
Wow.
And Jerred's like,
I haven't heard some of those names in a very long time, but I'm aware of the bands.
That's throwing it back.
I've been bringing it back lately, so that's what I'm giving it. Because normally I'm like Rage Against the Machine, Slipknot, Korn. I'm like, well, no, let's change it up a little bit. But anything that motivates you to move. And then I'm going with Kyle. Try not to set the barbell down. So ignore the pain. Just keep moving. And like he said, move your arms, because I always move out and then come back in, move out and come back in because of the blood flow. But just keep going. And the faster you move, the easier, or the faster you'll be done.
So I don't even do tunes for this one.
Oh, I know.
I just get in there and suffer. I don't do that for all of them, but this one I get in there and suffer. It's part of the part of the deal for me with
Well,
this one.
What I was going to say for tunes is put on some smooth jazz.
Ugh.
You might have actually, I think you should try it again, and you might actually beat Ashley this time.
Oh, ouch. Oh, man. Okay.
It's too simple of a workout to have tips. I got nothing.
Well, I think the tip of not setting it down is maybe like the most hidden, mean advice you can give. And I'm just going to call it out right now. The longer you walk and then decide to set it down. So if you're going to take this advice of not setting it down, you don't set it down. There's no option of setting it down, because the longer you walk and then you do decide to set it down, the harder the workout becomes.
Yep.
Because if you were to be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to stop every 100 meters or 200 meters or whatever, if you had some sort of strategy, you're like, I'm going to stop, rest this amount of time, then keep going. Not what I recommend, but if you do that, it's not going to be very challenging. But if you decide to do, okay, I'm just not going to set it down, but then you get to 0.7 mile and you're like, I absolutely have to set this down. You set it down. After you put it back on your back, you'll probably end up stopping like 30 times before it's over. You just keep dropping it over and over again. So be careful with that advice. You either go all the way or go with strategy, which I was surprised Joe didn't have. I thought that's what Joe was going to bring to the table today. I thought he was going to say, plan out your rest. But
Joe, have you done the Iron Mile?
Yes, I have.
he's done it with me. So we've done it together with a
We
yoke.
did it. Well, yeah, we did. That was back when we tried to do a Periscope with it, and somebody thought Jerred looked like Justin
Periscope.
Timberlake.
Yeah. That's when we were doing lives on Periscope back in the day, just so you know.
One of two, I think we did.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, because I've done it before, and when you set it down, it's like, okay, you make it, like, I think I made it halfway. One of the times I did, like, okay, cool, I made it halfway. I'm going to drop it halfway, and then I'm going to rest, and I'm going to pick it up and take it back. But once you put it back on, you walk, and you're like, this has just got so much harder. I'm so much more fatigued. I can set it down again. And that's just, a slippery slope once you do it. So maybe you'll just go numb before then.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this because the gym is outdoors. It's kind of like slightly fenced in. I don't know how they'd feel about just be like walking out like, hi guys, see you later.
Yeah, I've heard that doesn't work well. Also, I've heard putting a barbell loaded with weight on your back and getting on one of their treadmills is not.
Yeah, don't do that. Please don't.
Yeah, we did not condone that. Just don't do it.
Definitely can't set the bar down at that point.
I also, it's going to depend on everybody's body type, but there might be a spot on your back where you can kind of balance a barbell and put your arms down.
Trap City.
Yeah. So this will be body dependent, but just try it out.
While you're walking, though?
Yeah, just walk slow. I can't do it for a long period of time. No, I honestly do this in the Iron Mile. If I'm trying to go like, don't set it down, I will just drop my arms by my side and then take small steps, very small steps. And then I'll get my arms back up there, because you guys are talking about arms going out, back in. They're still up. You know what I mean? So it's still going to be hard for your body to recover.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's hard for them to fully recover. So if you can get your arms down by your sides without dropping the barbell, that's helping with the.
I'll usually dangle one at a time. Like I'll keep one up and put one down and kind of shake it out some.
That doesn't make you start walking in circles?
Yeah, you can't do it. I can't do it for very long because I wind up loading one side more than the other. So then I'll just shake the other one out and kind of even it out. Just
shake it off.
Let's talk weight. What's everyone's weight going to be? I think I am going to do this one because I haven't done the Iron Mile in a while, and I have the yoke ready to go. So I'm going to do it with the yoke, which is awesome. So what are you guys going to do? Who's doing it, and what weight are you doing?
I did it with 135 last time, so I feel like I can't go lower than that. I'm going to go
140.
145.
That's probably what I would.
I'm not going to go more.
Yeah, I did 95, so I'll probably stick with 95.
All right. Joe's not
See
doing
if I can
it.
beat Kyle again.
We'll see. We'll see.
I might go body weight. I might, because it's the yoke. To be honest, the yoke's a little bit easier. I'm not gonna lie. It's a fatter bar.
If I had a yoke, I would try it with the yoke, but
it's a much fatter bar, so it doesn't dig in as much. I feel like you could walk all day with a yoke. So I'll do Actually, I'm bigger now. So 195, 180, 190, 195. I always
Just
default
weigh
to-
yourself on the day.
I've weighed 185 for like forever, and now I gained some weight because I squat too much.
Because I squat too
Too often?
much.
Not too much
Fat you.
weight. It's still less than 500. So, all right, I guess that's it for the Iron Mile, and that's it for everything. Now, if you committed, I just want to highlight those athletes again to the lifetime or the year. Awesome. So glad to have you as part of the community, and you're looking for that consistency and you really trust our training. So again, I appreciate that. I love this community. I love everybody who listens to the podcast, watches us on YouTube, everyone in the Facebook group. It's just such an awesome and supportive community. And I mean, it's been great in 2020. As much as 2020 has sucked in a lot of ways, the community has been awesome. And so thanks for being awesome. If you are not a part of the awesomeness for some odd reason, go to garagegymathlete.com, fix that reason or fix that problem. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial and try out the training. See if you like it. I guarantee that you will. If you don't like it, it's just a trial. It's not a big deal. Just try it out. That's what a trial is. But that's it, guys. That's all we have for this podcast. Thanks for watching on the YouTube if you're watching, or listening if you're on your podcast player. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.